Cook and Kendra Cox with DiscoverWoodward.com and Keller Williams Realty Elite, and we're here today with Kyle Reynolds with Woodward Public Schools. Lots of good information, and so
lots of good things, and I'm excited about this.
No, I appreciate you guys inviting me to do this.
He laughed. I said lots of good things. There are lots of good things.
Yeah.
So we've talked about how important it is for us to be able to share the awesome things that happen in our community, so that whenever we have people relocate to Woodward, that they are excited about Woodward like we're excited about Woodward.
Right.
But before we get into anything, one of the questions that we've asked you ahead of time is kind of what molded you or made you who you are. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I said when I responded to that, I think my grandmother probably had as much influence on me as anyone, Orpha Frost. I looked up to my grandfather. He was a businessman and he was the mayor, and stuff like that. But I was around my grandmother a lot, and it was the constant grammar lessons, and they were subtle. Hey, you want a cookie? Yeah. What? Yeah. What? Yes, please. Oh, okay. Just simple little things like that. And we spent hours reading highlights books, and we would do puzzles. But it was just something that both my grandparents, Brandon and Orpha Frost, were Northwestern Oklahoma State University. They were teachers. They were both teachers until the economic times were so bad they had to elope when they got married. And then once they found out that they were married and they were both teachers, one of them had to quit. You could only have one family member being a teacher. So, but she really shaped me and had all those sayings: "A penny saved, a penny earned," but really the passion for reading and learning that took me into as an English major at OU, and I carried that through and got my teaching degree from Northwestern, and I just had the greatest time teaching freshman English. It was my big thing for 4 years.
I love whenever we can see why we are who we are, and to be able to pinpoint that Grandma made such a difference. But one of the things that you said that I think is hugely important is that your education really began at home.
Absolutely.
And we could probably spend a whole lot of time talking about that. And so I won't, even though I really want to. That's one of the things that we say a lot to our buyers.
Come to town, we tell them, hey, it's the education systems are all great in Northwest Oklahoma. If you're a parent and you're involved, your kid will have a much better experience.
Yes.
You need to be teaching as much as the teachers are teaching.
Absolutely.
So we've got your back, man. We say that all the time.
That.
We believe that, and especially me. I assume you do too, but I don't want to.
So we know.
No, I tried to teach.
Right? Yeah.
I wouldn't say that. We're the experience, and I tried hard. All right, so so you are a Woodward boy, kind of.
I am a Woodward boy. My dad was in the Air Force for a little while, and so as he transitioned out of the Air Force, they'd moved to Midwest City, and that's where I was born. Okay. But they got me here as quick as they could.
Oh, good.
Good. I don't even know. I don't think I was a year old when they moved back to Woodward, and we moved into 2304 Maple, and that's where I grew up.
Do we have that on the market?
No.
Yeah, it was a flipper.
Yeah,
that, one
it's
of
a
my
beautiful
teachers and
home
her
right
husband
now.
Oh yes, it is.
Yes.
It is on the market right now.
Yeah.
Almost.
That's fun. Okay, that's a great house
That's
too.
great. Yes.
Yeah.
It looks completely different
Sorry
now.
that
Yes, it does.
Guess who does the
Yeah.
paperwork in our? I know. Okay.
Yeah.
So you did grow up in Woodward, and Woodward is your
Yeah.
home, but you left, of course, for college. And
Right.
so, what brought you back?
Well, we always plan to come back. I married my high school sweetheart, Stacy Olander, and she came down to OU a year after me. We were both in the band at OU, and she got a degree in occupational therapy. And the next thing you know, we're buying a house in Norman, and our first home, a whole $45,000, and we had a kid. Jessica was born in 1992. And so you fast forward to spring break of 1993, and my father-in-law calls and says, "Are you guys ready to come home?" No, we're having a great time down here. Stacy's got a great job at Children's Hospital. And he said, "Well, Woodward Hospital really is looking for an occupational therapist, and they want to talk to you." And so, being the young, we weren't really ready to move, so we're like, okay, here's our list of demands, and the moving company and this, and they said, okay.
All right.
And so in June, we were here, and we moved back, and I worked part-time for her dad while I was finishing my degree at Northwestern, and we started raising our kid. But, the thing about it was, while we lived down there, it was all fun and games when it was the two of us.
Right.
And your car gets broken into, and you hear about certain crimes or this and that. Even in Norman, fairly nice community and all that. And we said, we don't want to raise our kids here. we want to raise our kids at home, but we
Right.
didn't have a solid plan for getting back here.
Right.
It just God threw it in our lap, and that's what we did. So,
Absolutely.
and then I got my foot in the door. When I graduated with my teaching degree, a student taught for Linda Harrison at the middle school,
Awesome.
and so I came into the superintendent's office. I went to the principal. There's no jobs, but then they called me one day and said we need somebody to teach summer school. I'm like,
That sounds
okay,
really familiar.
sweet. Yeah, I mean, literally, I'm talking to the principal in a hayfield east of town. It's 100 degrees, and he's like, well, it only pays like $1,200. Half days in the air conditioning? Are you kidding me? I'm getting $6 an hour for bucking hay bales. I'm in. So that got my foot in the door, and it just so happened, and this is another, they put me right next to Brian Stevenson, science teacher. 300 Hall, last door before you get to United Supermarket. It's way out there.
Right.
Brian was the head of the technology committee. We were getting ready to have a bond issue for a bunch of technology, and I had a computer. So they put me on the technology committee, and next thing you know, we're cabling the building, we're putting computers in, we're having to figure all this stuff out and keep it running and teach teachers. I won't say the name, but I had a teacher say my mouse quit working. Really? Well, let's look at it. And she goes, see? She put it in her hand, and she goes, look.
Uh-oh.
Well, I said, please put the mouse on the table, and here's solitaire. Learn how to play so you can use your mouse. But when Mr. Denton opened up the IT director job in 1999, I was like, they're pulling me out of class all the time to work on computers. Right. And this is a transformational thing, this technology and how we implement it in education. And so that was a big passion of mine for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And I got a degree. My boss, another God thing, came along, and he basically bullied me to take the principal's test and the superintendent's. I had no intention of doing that. That was ridiculous. Who would do that?
I've questioned that myself.
I know. But he, maybe for whatever reason, he saw in me that I didn't see. And so in 2009, when Mr. King retired, and Kirk Warnick and I had a long talk, and it was time to make a change and get back into where I could have an impact with kids as an assistant principal at the high school. And it was grueling. I mean, it's attendance discipline crisis all the time.
Right.
And parents are normally mad when they're calling you. And so when I got an opportunity to come up here after 4 years as a deputy superintendent, I didn't even care what that meant. I said, get me out of the assistant principal's office for a minute, okay? And we had some conversations that when my predecessor would retire, that I should consider, making a run for this office. And I said, well, okay, we'll see how it goes. Well, then I think we got to March, and he says, listen, you need to start really thinking about this. And I said, what are we talking, a couple, 3 years? And he goes, no, I think I can make it to summer. I said, oh my gosh. So one thing led to another, and June, I'm in this office, and June, I think 27th or something was the day I got the call that the middle school was on fire. And so I'm having to, at 4 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, so I'm having to learn how to be a superintendent, how to manage. It ended up being an 18-month long, $2.3 million fire claim. We've just passed a $29 million bond issue. I've got construction going on at 4 different locations. I signed a PO for $1 million for iPads that year, just for iPads. So that was 6 years ago, and I've just finished my 25th year in the district.
That's one of the things I think is interesting to me about your position is when I think of school, I'm thinking only of education, and even you in the superintendent position, I still think educator mindset.
Right.
And your job is so much more than an educator mindset. You have to wear a contractor hat. And we get this in our business too. I know way more about a house now and its functions and roofs and that shingles are not the same thing as a roof. I mean, there's so many things that I didn't understand before I do now. So you have to wear your contractor hat, and you have to wear your educator hat, and you have to wear your financial advisor hat, and there's all these different facets.
Economic development. Community relations. I mean, and I don't know, and I don't want to sound like I'm patting myself on the back, but I'm passionate about this community because it's my home.
Right.
And so what I've learned over the years, the school's not responsible for economic development in our community, but we definitely play
Right.
a role.
Absolutely.
I mean, I started taking, they would call me, this is 15 years ago, I bet, the hospital would call, we've got a doctor coming to visit, can you take them on a tour of the schools? They've got
Right.
kids, and so it's an important component that we can help the community move forward. Bond issues, construction projects
Yes.
brings people to town, brings dollars to town.
I love what you just said, the interaction between you and people moving to town. So when our buyers come in, what do you want us to say? Whenever they say, hey, tell us about the school, tell us about the school district, what would you say to them? Because, I mean, obviously we have the good, the bad, and the ugly. How do
Sure.
I promote us?
The first thing that I tell people that are moving to town and they have elementary age kids, find the house you like,
Yes.
because all 3 of our elementary sites are awesome. They have great principal leaders, they have great teachers and faculty. They each have their own kind of character, you know, their own personality. The second thing I'd say, we're kid-centered. You know, our motto is all means all.
Yes.
You know, we don't focus on just the ones that want to or whatever. We are responsible for educating every single kid, and that responsibility is huge these days. Ask people when was the highest graduation rate in the United States, and what do they say? You ask somebody my age and they'd say it was probably in the 80s because that was the greatest time of the history of the world, because that was when I graduated high school. Or they would say it was the 60s or 50s. No, the highest graduation rate in the country was last year. I mean, it continues to go up, and that's our fight to make sure that our kids are getting
Yes.
across that finish line, but it's not a finish line because you guys know the changes in the job market now. A high school diploma is just a minimum.
Right.
That is just a minimum, and a high school diploma is $1 million difference in the earnings of a kid over their life, and now it's got to be more than that. So I would tell them we are kid-centered, we're innovative. Our partnership with Career Tech and Higher Ed makes it seamless for our kids to take advantage of those opportunities, and we're a professional learning community school. That's, you know, our focus is a continuous improvement model.
I see that with my own 2 children because they are vastly different in their challenges and in their exceptional skills. And so one is absolutely career tech, and the other one was absolutely college bound. And Woodward did a great job of helping each one to find a path and stay on that path and succeed in that path. And I see both of them successful in their own abilities today. And I value that hugely. And the other thing that you didn't say anything about middle school. Not a word. Do you need me to say it?
Middle school, and I know you guys are middle school teachers, but middle school should...
No, but I love middle school students.
You do?
Oh my gosh,
Middle
yes.
school should be counted as an adverse childhood experience all by itself. I don't know, it was brutal for me, but you know, our facilities in that campus, you know, we spent 2 years renovating 2 blocks worth
Right.
of facilities, and the way that they were able to tie everything together, and the new media center there in the safe room.
Amazing.
You know, I don't know how many schools in Oklahoma can say that they can put 2,700 kids in a safe room in a matter of 2 or 3
Right.
minutes. We can do that.
Right.
Every one of our schools has safe rooms, and those tornado drills take maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and you've got every single person on campus
It's amazing.
safe.
And then we're working on some safety things, or maybe you've even completed them. My kids are out of high school a couple years, so I'm a little bit out of touch. But at the high school, I've been super impressed to see that you were working on or have completed the safety mechanisms to allow people to come in. So I can't just walk in the school anymore.
Well, we're working on
I mean,
that.
I should be able to,
And, yeah, you should be able to. And this year you won't.
Not at all.
I promise you. But, and
Except
actually,
after March.
You know, we reconfigured every entrance of every school except for the high school. We do have that mechanism there, but we don't have a system in place where when a person hits that button, the secretary is so far away,
Right.
they can't read the body language, see the people,
Sure.
and so it's not very good. But that was where we ran out of money. We got them all done, but that one. And so the bond election in August is the one that we've got those funds in
next.
there. Would actually extend the secure vestibule inside the school, get that person closer to where we can read body language. I don't know, and may include temperature scans at some point, things like that.
Man.
But anyway, we do have, at every school we've implemented now the visitor kiosk so
Yes.
we can ensure our kids are safe. And so all you have to do to come visit is to scan your driver's license, and it prints you out a little visitor badge.
Right.
If you're on the sex offender database, there's going to be a red flag raised. My
Right.
SRO is going to know about it immediately. The
Mhm.
principal's going to know. So safety is huge these days.
It is huge, and I mean, again, I'm no longer a parent of a student in school, and I recognize the need for that. It's easy for us because Woodward is so amazing, and it's easy for me to say we don't need that. We're a great community, but you never know when the tide's going to change, and so it's amazing that we have that, and so we love to see that. We love to see the safety measures that are being
Sure.
put into our school system. So August is when we vote again.
August 25th.
I'll let you say that one more time.
August 25th.
I know that's important. Okay, so I've joked. So last winter, I would see you in the gym in the morning,
Mhm.
and like you would get the good treadmill. Like you're supposed to be in the back, and we're supposed to be in the front
Well,
with
that's
the
my
good
name on
treadmill.
it.
No, I'm
That's-
sorry.
That's the good one.
Your name works here, but there. So I would see you in the gym, and I remember one morning particularly, we had some inclement weather that was supposed to have arrived, and it hadn't whenever it was time for me to hit the gym. And so my workout buddy is a teacher, and I'm like, like there's nothing going, I would not, because other schools had already canceled. I said, and it occurred to me like that morning for the first time in 40 years, something, you're danged if you do and you're danged if you don't sometimes. And so but I wanted to say that because I recognized, I said, my gosh, I would not want to have to declare, by the time we left that morning, it was getting slick that morning, and so walking out to the car, I mean, I personally was very gingerly walking out to my vehicle. You are truly in the hot seat where there are nobody's happy all the time, are they?
No.
And so one of the things that I know you said, who knew that you'd have to manage pandemics? Manage the weather, being the radar guy, and I mean, you've got all these different things. It goes back to all those different hats, but
Yeah.
I just wanted I'm laughing about it because it's not me.
Well, and my friends don't feel sorry for me. They say, well, you're the
Well, you
idiot
chose
that
it.
applied for the job. But the common denominator in everything you just talked about is troubleshooting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just problem solving. And that's where, when I was working on computers, it was BG before Google.
Right.
Okay, you couldn't just Google something or YouTube
Mhm.
something and tell you how to fix it. I mean, you had to really dig in and have a process of elimination
Mhm.
when you're troubleshooting things. And I think, and I'm stubborn by nature,
Mhm.
and so I think I got some of those troubleshooting things embedded
Sure.
in me, and it's made a big difference. And I just don't like not to know something. I've got to figure
Right.
it out. So, I mean, I spent 4 hours on the phone with Gateway tech support one time, and they could not fix my computer, and I had it fixed the next day. You know, it's just point
Right.
of pride things. So, and just like today, we've had a crisis event today, and so we had some pre-planning that we'd done.
Mhm.
We leaned on the framework that we built. We called the people that we knew we needed to speak to and went through our process, and you know, we feel good about it. Somebody's probably going to be mad about it,
Of course.
but
Of
you know,
course.
I can get happy in the same pants they got mad in. You know, at the end of the day, I go home and know that we made decisions based on what's good for kids,
Yes.
what's good for our schools, and what's good for our community. And we do it in that order because the kids have to come first.
Absolutely. And I've heard you say it before, and I'm so glad you said it just now because you say it better than I do. Kids first. What's next?
Kids, school,
Kids, school, and community.
community.
And
Yeah.
I think, I mean, that is paramount because those kids are the next school, frankly. I mean,
Mhm.
those little ones that aren't even here, they're school. And those school kids, that's our community. And so
Right.
we have to take care of them first and make sure that they are protected and that they're educated and that they have all the tools that they need to survive and survive well.
Yep.
And so I appreciate the heck out
And
of
my
that.
passion, by the way, is we're talking about kids and those different components that go into education. Mental health is
Yeah.
that's what's really gotten my attention in the last few years.
Mhm.
And you know, man plans, God laughs. Okay,
Mhm.
and so I have had a personal experience in the last few years that drew my attention to mental health. I get a phone call one day from the State Department. We're picking 3 schools to be part of the Project Aware, a multi-million 5-year
Right.
long federal grant, and we want Woodward to participate. You're
Mhm.
the first call.
Wow.
And absolutely, and so we have extra staff, we have extra support. We've been doing book studies, Chan Hellman's
Mhm.
book, The Hope Rising,
Mhm.
if you ever get a chance, and that's an Oklahoma guy, by the way. Hope Rising. How can you build resilience and hope in kids who have had traumatic and adverse childhood experiences. And in fact, just this weekend I started on my doctorate, and that's where I'm going with my dissertation, is the mental health and how we can, because you can take kids that have had adverse childhood experiences and help them overcome those things. Because if you don't, and they're sitting on an ACE score, adverse childhood experience score, of a 4 or a 5, that means they don't live as long. That means they have health issues. That means they substance abuse, all those things. So we can just not help them perform better on a standardized test. We can help them have a better life.
Yes, very much so. Help them live. I love it. All right, so discoverwoodward.com promotes Woodward. One more thing, not so much education particularly, but you said something earlier that caught my attention. So Grandma probably rolled over in a grave minute ago because I answered you, yeah. I meant to say yes, of course, first and foremost, but yes. But secondly, you mentioned your granddad Frost also had a business here in Woodward.
Yeah.
So I would imagine you probably have some things to say about Shop Local.
Oh, absolutely. It was right here on the corner of 9th and Main, Frost Department Store. And when somebody older, I'm talking to them, and they say, have you lived here a long time? Yeah, you probably knew my granddad. Oh, Frost Department Store. Yeah, it was an anchor on Main Street with Kyle's Star Model across the street, the Bogdan's Drugstore. And it was so cool. My granddad would take me down after hours, pick out any pair of tennis shoes I wanted. Brand new pair of tennis shoes, and just let me have them. But anyway, I just was around so many of those conversations as a kid with my granddad being a local merchant. He and my wife's granddad, Cecil Campbell, who owned the Firestone store, they were both mayor at different times, and I just hear those things about the trade area, about how we have this huge trade area, and talking about how important it is to shop locally. So yeah, that's those merchants that are here in town, they're the ones that donate to our kids. They're the first ones that get hit up. You know that. Yes. They come here, you need to add in the yearbook, you need to add in the booster program, we're doing this fundraiser, and there's a golf tournament coming up. And so how does that work if you're asking them for donations and then you're leaving town to go shopping?
Absolutely. I knew you might have a little comment on that. Yes. Well, do you have anything else?
No.
We absolutely appreciate you took some time because we know you're busy, and we know that you clock out at 4 o'clock every day, right?
I forgot to clock out today.
So we do. We really appreciate it. And so thank you so much for taking some time to join us.
I appreciate you guys having me. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.